But even as life settled, challenges arose. Some Carians struggled with cultural differences, the vast diversity of humans and the complexity of Earth systems. Arguments occasionally flared, small tensions building from misunderstandings. Lyra intervened with patience and empathy, reminding her people that adaptation required time, effort, and an open heart. One evening, as the sun set, Lyra stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. The sky was painted in golds and purples, and the ocean glimmered in the distance. She saw humans and Carians working side by side, gardens being tended, structures being repaired, children laughing together. It was a moment of beauty that transcended words. Mara approached, smiling. "You've done well," she said. "Your people are finding their place. They are learning, healing, and thriving. That is not easy after what they've endured." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting both pride and lingering sorrow. They've survived so much, and now they are learning to live again, to hope again. In the days that followed, the settlement flourished. Carians shared their knowledge of technology, contributing ideas that improved systems on Earth. Humans welcomed these contributions, celebrating the union of two worlds. Slowly, stories of the abandoned Carians spread, inspiring others to show compassion and courage. Lyra often thought of Carrion 7, the ashes, the silence, and the despair. But she also thought of Earth, the blue oceans, the green forests, the humans who had risked everything. She realized that survival was only the first step. Living fully with courage, compassion, and unity was the true triumph. One night, standing beneath the stars, Lyra whispered, "We were abandoned, but we were not lost. Earth gave us a chance, and we will honor it with every breath, every thought, and every action. We will live, and we will thrive." And above them, Earth's gentle blue light shone down on the settlement, a reminder that kindness could cross galaxies, that hope could survive even the darkest moments, and that even the abandoned could find a home. Months had passed since the Carians first stepped onto Earth. The settlement had grown, expanding into a vibrant community where humans and Carians lived side by side. Gardens flourished, children laughed in shared playgrounds, and the hum of industry blended with the songs of birds and the waves of distant oceans. Life had returned, fragile at first, but steadily, beautifully. Lyra walked among her people, marveling at the transformation. What had once been frightened, hollow-eyed survivors were now thriving, learning and laughing. Children ran past her, playing games that combined Carian imagination with human creativity. Elders shared stories of the past with eager young listeners, teaching lessons about resilience and hope. She paused near a garden where Carians and humans worked together, planting vegetables and flowers. A human boy handed a seedling to a Carian girl. Their fingers touched and they both smiled, shyly at first, then with delight. Lyra felt a warmth in her heart that she had not known in months. This was not just survival. This was life renewed, life shared. Yet even in this peace, Lyra remembered the pain of Carrion 7, the city reduced to ashes, the families lost, the silence of a dying planet. It could not be forgotten. She knelt beside a small memorial built in the center of the settlement, engraved with the names of those who had perished. Children left flowers and glowing stones while elders whispered prayers. Lyra traced the engravings with her fingers. "We remember," she said softly, "and we honor them by living." Mara approached, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You have led them well," she said. "They trusted you, and because of that trust, they have found life again. You've done more than survive, you've given them hope." Lyra looked at the children playing nearby, at the families sharing meals, at the laughter and life around her. "They were abandoned once," she whispered, "but not anymore. We will never forget the pain, but we will also never forget the kindness that saved us." As night fell, the sky glimmered with stars. Lyra climbed a small hill overlooking the settlement, feeling the gentle breeze of earth on her face. She saw humans and Carians walking together, talking, sharing knowledge, and building dreams. The horizon glowed softly, a promise of tomorrow. She thought of the galaxy that had ignored them, of the alien vessels that had threatened them in the void. They had faced despair, danger, and abandonment, yet they had survived. And they had found allies, courage and compassion in the unlikeliest of places. Lyra turned to the young children who had followed her. One small boy asked, "Will we ever go back to Carrion 7?" Lyra knelt, looking into his bright eyes. "No, she said gently. Our home there is gone. But Earth is our new home. Here we can grow, we can dream, and we can build something better than before. We carry Carry-On 7 in our hearts, and we honor it every day by living fully. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also the power of possibility. The Carry-Ons had endured the worst their world and the galaxy could throw at them. Now they had the chance not just to survive, but to thrive, and Earth, in its simple yet profound humanity, had given them that chance. In the weeks that followed, the Carry-Ons began to contribute fully to their new society. Their knowledge of technology, medicine, and science blended with human ingenuity, creating innovations that benefited both species. They taught, they learned, and slowly, they were no longer outsiders. They were part of something greater, a union of worlds forged by compassion and courage. One evening, as the settlement gathered under the stars for a celebration of survival and renewal, Lyra stood before the people. Humans and Carry-Ons alike looked up at her. We were abandoned by the galaxy, she said, her voice steady and strong, carrying across the gathering. We were left to face death alone, but Earth believed in us. Earth risked everything to save us, and because of that, we are alive. Because of that, we will thrive. And because of that, we will show the galaxy that even the abandoned can rise stronger, wiser, and full of hope. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the night. Children waved glowing lanterns, elders wept quietly, and parents held each other tightly. Lyra felt tears on her cheeks, tears not of grief but of joy, pride, and deep, unshakable gratitude. As she gazed at the stars above, Lyra whispered a promise to the universe. We will live. We will grow. And we will never forget that even when the galaxy turns away, kindness, courage, and hope can create miracles. Humanity has shown us that, and we will carry that lesson forever. The night sky shimmered above them, reflecting in the oceans below. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the Carry-Ons felt truly safe. They had lost their world, but they had gained life. They had been abandoned, but they had been saved. And now together with humans, they faced a future filled with hope, courage, and endless possibility. The stars watched silently as the abandoned found their place. The galaxy had turned away, but Earth had taken them in. And in that act of compassion, the Carry-Ons discovered the greatest truth of all. Life, love, and hope could endure even in the darkest corners of the universe. And so, a new dawn rose, not just over Earth, but over the hearts of those who had survived, reminding them that even in the face of abandonment, humanity could shine brighter than any star. Survive. We are going to bring hope back to people who thought hope was gone. Remember, our strength is not just in our suits or weapons. It's in our courage, our heart, and our refusal to give up. We answer the call no matter what. The engines roared as the Deathworlders' ships approached the surface. The clouds of ash and fire swirled below like a living storm, but the humans pressed on. Every hand gripped a weapon or control, every mind focused on the task ahead. Somewhere beneath that ruined sky, survivors waited, trembling and terrified. Soon they would see the ships. Soon, they would see the monsters that had come to save them, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the universe began to take notice. Humanity had answered. Humanity had arrived. For the first time in months, the Zorvani survivors would feel a spark of hope. A chance to live. A chance to escape the dying world that had tried to claim them. And far above, the Deathworlders prepared to bring that chance down, one life at a time. The galaxy had ignored their cries for too long. But now humanity was coming. And nothing, not fire, not ash, not the end of the world, would stop them. The first human ships pierced the ash-choked skies of Zorvan 9 like silver arrows. Lightning flashed in the thick, dark clouds, striking the crumbling cities below. Toxic winds tore across the surface, carrying the stench of burned earth and poisoned water. Yet the Deathworlders pressed on, descending toward the coordinates of the faint distress signal. Lieutenant Kara Voss stared through her visor at the ruined planet. The sensors on her suit screamed warnings: radiation too high, wind speeds extreme, terrain unstable. But her heart beat steadily. She had trained for worlds like this. This was what humans did. They survived where others could not. They endured what others fled from. And they fought for those who could not fight for themselves. As the ships touched down on jagged, cracked terrain, small explosions rocked the landing pads. Pieces of debris flew like shrapnel, but the humans moved as if the danger were part of the air they breathed. Captain Darius Kane led the first team down the ramp, his boots striking ash and rock, his eyes scanning for movement. The Zorvani survivors were somewhere below, waiting, and he would not let them down. The survivors stared from the shadows, their eyes wide in disbelief. They had heard stories of humans, the Deathworlders as some called them, but no story could prepare them for the sight of these massive, armored figures stepping into the ruined city. Their suits gleamed in the dim light, weapons ready, but there was no malice in their posture. They were not here to conquer. They were here to save. A child stumbled from behind a collapsed wall, coughing from the poisoned air. Kara extended her hand, kneeling to meet the trembling figure at eye level. "You're safe now," she said softly. "We are here to take you home." The child blinked, unsure if this was a dream or reality. "Humans," she whispered, voice shaking. You came for us?" Kara nodded, a faint smile breaking through the grime on her face. "Yes, we never leave anyone behind." The survivors slowly emerged from hiding, moving with cautious hope. Families reunited in the middle of the ruins, tears mingling with the ash on their faces. Some fell to their knees in gratitude, others simply stared, unable to comprehend that someone had answered their cries after so long. But the planet was not done with them yet. As the humans led the survivors toward the evacuation ships, the ground trembled violently. Cracks opened in the earth, and from them rose creatures warped by radiation, giant clawed beasts with glowing eyes born from the planet's toxic chaos. Their screeches echoed across the ruins. The Zorvani froze in fear, some beginning to retreat. "Stay calm," Captain Kane shouted. "Stand behind us. We'll handle this." The Deathworlders formed a protective line around the survivors. Weapons fired in synchronized precision, cutting through the monsters with brutal efficiency. Bolts of energy lit the gray sky and explosions ripped through the ash clouds. Yet Kane and his team did not flinch. Each step forward was measured, deliberate. Every life mattered. A survivor screamed as a creature lunged near them. Kara dashed forward, using her suit's strength to push the child out of harm's way. Her weapon fired and the beast fell. She knelt beside the child, brushing ash from their hair. "You are safe," she whispered again. "We are here now. You will survive." The survivors began to understand something incredible about these humans. They were terrifying in combat, unstoppable in the face of danger, yet tender and protective to the helpless. They were not monsters, they were something far greater. Hours passed as the humans fought their way through the ruins. They cleared paths, neutralized threats, and guided the survivors toward safety. Each time a human saved a child, pulled an elder from danger, or carried someone over broken terrain, hope grew brighter in the hearts of the Zorvani. They had been abandoned, ignored, and left for dead, yet here were humans defying death itself to reach them. As night fell on Zorvan 9, the sky glowed with fire and lightning. The humans set up protective perimeters around the survivors, giving them shelter and warmth in the form of portable energy shields. For the first time in months, the Zorvani felt safe. Their fear had not disappeared, but it had transformed into something else. Trust. Captain Kane surveyed the scene, exhaustion tugging at his body, yet his eyes burned with determination. "We stay until everyone is accounted for," he said. "No one is left behind. Not tonight, not ever." Kara looked at the survivors huddled around small warmth generators. Their eyes were wide with amazement and gratitude, but one thing shone clearer than anything else: hope. Humanity had arrived, answering cries that the universe had ignored. And in that moment, even in a world of ash and death, the spark of life felt stronger. The Deathworlders had arrived. They were human, yes, but to the Zorvani, they were something more. Saviors, monsters of legend, angels of destruction and mercy combined. And above all, they were proof that in the galaxy, no one's cries would ever be ignored again. As Kara stood on the ridge overlooking the ruins, she whispered softly to herself, "We'll get them all out. We always do." And for the first time in what felt like forever, the survivors of Zorvan 9 dared to believe it. The planet's fury did not rest. Zorvan 9 seemed alive, a cruel predator that resented the intruders. Ash swirled like storms, lightning ripped through the gray skies, and the ground quaked beneath every step. Toxic clouds hissed with acid rain, burning everything they touched. Even the air itself was a weapon, and every breath was a battle. The Deathworlders moved with relentless focus. Lieutenant Kara Voss led a team carrying survivors through the ruined streets, their suits glowing against the gloom. Behind them, the evacuation ships hovered, ready to lift off the innocent lives they had come to save. Each step was dangerous, yet the humans did not falter. Fear did not rule them. Courage did. Suddenly, a roar shattered the air. From the jagged craters of the planet emerged enormous creatures, mutated beasts born from radiation and poison. Their claws cracked stone, their eyes burned like embers, and their howls filled the survivors with terror. Children screamed, and parents froze helpless against the monsters. "Form a line," Captain Darius Kane shouted. His voice cut through the chaos, commanding attention. The Deathworlders moved like shadows of steel, creating a protective barrier between the creatures and the fleeing survivors. Blasts of energy lit the air as weapons fired in perfect coordination. Bolts struck claws and fangs with precise timing. The monsters roared and fell one by one, but more emerged from the darkness. The Zorvani watched in awe and fear. These humans, these Deathworlders, fought as if the planet itself could not touch them. A child tripped and fell, gasping in terror as a beast lunged toward her. Kara sprinted forward, lifting the child into her arms. Her suit shielded them both from the acidic rain as she fired at the approaching monster. The creature screeched and stumbled back, then fled into the darkness. Kara's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. "You're safe," she whispered, holding the trembling child close. "We've got you." Nearby, Captain Kane fought like a force of nature. He moved with terrifying precision, every shot calculated, every strike deadly. A Zorvani elder tried to help, offering prayers to invisible gods, but Kane's voice cut through the fear. "Step back. We've got this. You are safe with us." The survivors began to see something remarkable. These humans were more than warriors. They were shields, guardians, protectors in a universe that had abandoned them. Each time a human saved a child, carried an elder, or fought off a predator, hope grew brighter in the hearts of the Zorvani. Hours passed. The humans moved with unwavering determination, leading the survivors across broken streets and collapsing bridges, navigating through fires and crumbling buildings. Toxic winds tore at them and lightning flashed dangerously close, yet not a single human faltered. Every injury they sustained was minor, compared to the lives they saved. Every scar was proof that humanity did not turn away from danger. Kara glanced at the evac ships hovering above the chaos. One by one, the survivors climbed aboard, holding hands, helping each other, and looking back in disbelief at the humans who had braved death to reach them. "Almost there," she said softly, more to herself than to anyone else. But Zorvan 9 was not finished testing them. A massive quake split the ground beneath the last bridge they had to cross. Debris rained down and the survivors screamed in panic. Captain Kane ran ahead, anchoring himself to the stable edges and helping everyone across one by one. Every step was dangerous, every breath a battle against the hostile sky. Yet they pressed on. A young Zorvani girl looked up at Kara, her eyes wide with wonder. Why do you risk so much for us?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kara knelt beside her, brushing ash from the girl's hair. "Because you are worth it," she said simply. "We never leave anyone behind. That's what humanity does. That's who we are." The girl's lips quivered, and for a moment hope shone brighter than fear. Around them, the Deathworlders continued their protective march, shields blazing, weapons ready, unyielding in their mission. The survivors began to understand. These humans were not just saviors. They were a promise made real. As night fell, the storm began to die down, but the planet still smoldered in anger. Fires burned across the city, and the ash hung heavy in the sky. Yet in the midst of destruction, the humans had achieved what seemed impossible. Every survivor accounted for, every child safe, every elder protected. Captain Kane surveyed the scene, exhaustion tugging at his body, but pride burning in his eyes. "We keep moving until everyone is aboard," he said. "No one is left. Not tonight. Not ever." Kara looked at the survivors clinging to each other, fear slowly replaced by hope. Humanity had arrived, answering cries that had gone unheard for too long. In a world of ash, death, and despair, the Deathworlders had brought life, courage, and hope. The storm may have raged, the creatures may have attacked, and the planet may have tried to claim them, but humanity stood unbroken. For the Zorvani, this was more than rescue, it was a miracle. And for the Deathworlders, it was simply what they did. They answered cries in the dark. They fought the impossible, and they never, ever left anyone behind. The hostile sky above Zorvan 9 finally seemed to bow to their determination, if only for a moment. And in that brief calm, the survivors dared to hope that perhaps, just perhaps, life could continue beyond the ashes. The survivors huddled close to the evacuation ships, their eyes wide with exhaustion, disbelief, and a fragile hope they had not felt in months. The city around them was a graveyard, smoldering ruins, cracked streets, and ash that drifted like snow in a frozen world. Every step had been a struggle, every breath a test against the poisoned air. Yet the humans, the Deathworlders, remained steady, their focus unwavering. Captain Darius Kane surveyed the scene, his armor scorched from fires and battles with mutated beasts. He could see the exhaustion etched into the faces of his team, but he also saw determination. Humanity did not give up. Humanity did not leave anyone behind, and tonight, that truth would be proven. Lieutenant Kara Voss guided the last group of survivors through the twisted streets. Children clung to her arms, elders leaned on her shoulders, and she moved carefully, aware that the unstable ruins beneath their feet could collapse at any moment. One misstep could mean death. Yet she pressed on, knowing that to falter now would shatter hope itself. A sudden tremor shook the ground. Debris rained down from the shattered skyscrapers above. Kara screamed a warning as she pushed a small child out of the way, but a large slab of concrete pinned one of the Zorvani men beneath it. His face twisted in pain and fear. Kara ran to him, calling for assistance. The team rallied quickly, lifting the concrete together, saving the man before the unstable ruins could crush him. The survivors looked on in awe. These humans were not simply soldiers, they were guardians, angels of survival in a world that had abandoned them. Every action carried care, every life mattered. For months, these people had believed themselves forgotten. Now they saw proof that someone, somewhere, truly cared. Even as the last group approached the evacuation ships, danger was not over. Toxic clouds rolled in from the horizon, glowing with strange corrosive light. Lightning cracked across the sky. The ground shook as more mutated beasts emerged, drawn by the noise and movement. Kara's heart pounded as she positioned herself between the creatures and the fleeing survivors. "Stay close! Don't let go of each other," she shouted, firing precise bursts from her weapon. Captain Kane moved like a force of nature, cutting a path through the chaos. Every shot, every decision was calculated to protect the helpless. One of the children tripped and fell, tears streaming down her face, and Kane caught her before she could touch the scorched ground. "You're safe," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "We've got you." Hours stretched like days as the humans fought and guided the survivors. Exhaustion gnawed at their muscles, their lungs burned under the thick masks of their suits, but no one slowed. Each human carried more than equipment. They carried the hope and lives of those who could not save themselves. The Zorvani began to understand something remarkable. These humans were terrifying in their strength, relentless in their endurance, but gentle and protective to the weak. They were the impossible made real. One of the elders, trembling from fear and fatigue, approached Kane. Why do you risk everything for us?" he asked, voice breaking. Kane looked at him, his eyes steady and unwavering. "Because you deserve it," he said simply. "Because we do not abandon anyone. That is humanity." The elder's eyes filled with tears. Around them, survivors clung to each other, watching the humans fight off the beasts, maneuver through fire and debris, and lead them toward salvation. For the first time in months, hope felt real, tangible, and alive. Finally, the last survivors reached the evacuation ships. They climbed aboard, some weeping, some silent in disbelief, but all alive. The Deathworlders ensured every person was accounted for, double-checking names and numbers. The ash-stained children looked back at the ruined city one last time, unable to believe that someone had come for them when no one else had. As the ships lifted off, Captain Kane watched the planet disappear beneath them, the toxic clouds swirling in fury. He knew the mission had come at a cost, a few minor injuries, damage to equipment, and exhaustion that would take days to heal. But every life saved was worth it. Humanity had proven its promise. They had answered cries that echoed in the stars. Lieutenant Kara held a small child close, the girl's tiny hands gripping her armor. "It's over," Kara whispered softly. "You're safe now." The girl's lips trembled and a single tear ran down her cheek. For the first time she smiled. Humanity had brought her hope where there had been none. On the bridge of the lead ship, Kane addressed the crew quietly. "We've done what no one else could. We've shown the universe that humanity does not turn away. We leave no one behind. Remember this night." His words were met with silent nods, understanding, and pride. Somewhere in the void, the cries of the Zorvani transformed. No longer were they pleas of despair. They became whispers of gratitude, stories of survival, and songs of hope. The survivors would remember humanity not as warriors or conquerors, but as saviors who defied death itself to bring life. As the fleet moved toward safer space, the Deathworlders prepared for the next challenge. Across the galaxy there were more cries, more worlds in need, and humanity would answer them all. Because when all others fail, when the universe turns its back, humanity will come. Humanity will rise. Humanity will never abandon the helpless, and the universe will remember. The evacuation ship soared above the dying world, leaving behind the smoke, fire, and destruction of Zorvan 9. From their viewports, the survivors stared at the gray landscape, barely believing they had made it out alive. Cities that had once bustled with life were now reduced to ash and twisted metal. The sky still glowed with streaks of lightning, and the air shimmered with toxic heat. Yet the survivors felt something they had not felt in months. Hope. Lieutenant Kara Voss moved through the evacuation ship, checking on the rescued families. Children clung to blankets, elders sat quietly, still shaking from the trauma they had endured. Kara knelt beside a young girl who had refused to eat since the attack began. "It's over," she whispered softly. "You're safe now. Nothing can hurt you here." The girl's wide eyes blinked in disbelief. For months she had seen death and despair. For months she had feared that no one would ever come. And now a human, the Deathworlder, was telling her that she was safe. The weight of that realization pressed against her chest, and slowly she nodded, tears slipping down her face. In the observation deck, Captain Darius Kane stood silently, watching the planet fade behind them. He could feel the exhaustion of his team, but he also felt pride. Humanity had done what no one else had dared. They had answered a cry that had echoed through the stars, a plea that had been ignored by every other civilization. And they had not failed. The survivors began to speak to one another, sharing stories of the horrors they had endured and the moments when they had thought life was over. But even in their fear and sorrow, they spoke of the humans who had saved them, the strange, powerful, terrifying humans who had fought monsters, fire, and death itself to bring them home. Their voices carried awe, gratitude, and a growing admiration. One of the elder Zorvani approached Captain Kane, his hands trembling as he held onto the human's armored arm. I don't understand," he said. "Why did you risk so much for us? Why do humans care so deeply for those you don't even know?" Kane looked at him, eyes steady and full of quiet fire. "Because we are human," he replied. "We do not leave anyone behind. That is who we are. That is what we do." The elder's eyes filled with tears, and he bowed deeply. Around him, other survivors echoed his silent reverence. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, not as strangers, but as guardians. They had turned despair into hope and death into survival. In the medical bays, human medics tended to burns, injuries, and fatigue. Their hands were gentle but efficient, working quickly to heal wounds and calm frightened hearts. A young Zorvani boy, barely able to stand, clutched Kara's arm. Will we ever see our home again?" he asked, voice quivering. Kara knelt, brushing his ash-streaked hair from his forehead. "Your home may be gone," she said softly, "but life is not gone. We'll find a new beginning. You'll have a future because we fought for it." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. The galaxy seemed quiet, as if it had paused to witness the miracle that had just occurred. The survivors, many of them still in shock, began to understand that humanity was different from every other civilization they had known. Humans did not run from danger. Humans did not ignore cries for help. Humans thrived on the impossible and carried courage like a shield. Captain Kane gathered his team on the bridge. "This mission is over," he said, though his voice carried both relief and resolve. "But the galaxy is still full of cries like theirs. We will answer them all. Humanity does not abandon the helpless. That is our promise, and we will keep it." The survivors listened in awe. They had seen strength and power before, but this was something more. It was mercy combined with courage, fearlessness combined with compassion. The humans had risked everything, not for reward but because it was the right thing to do. In the quiet of the evacuation ship, Kara watched the young girl she had comforted earlier finally smile. The girl held a small trinket she had saved from the ruins, and her eyes reflected something that had almost been lost forever: hope. Kara felt her own chest tighten. Every battle, every risk, every sacrifice had been worth this moment. Humanity had brought life back to those who had thought it gone forever. As the ships moved farther from Zorvan 9, the survivors began to whisper among themselves. "We will tell the stars," one of the elders said. "We will tell everyone what humans did for us." And so, their story began to spread, carried across the void, a legend of courage and mercy that would echo through the galaxy. The Deathworlders remained vigilant, knowing that more cries awaited them somewhere out there, across light years of emptiness. Humanity had proven itself here, on a world that had been abandoned and left to die. But they knew the universe was full of challenges, and they would face them all, because to be human was to never abandon those in need. For the first time in months, the Zorvani survivors slept without fear. For the first time, they dreamed not of loss but of hope. And somewhere in the hearts of the Deathworlders, they carried a quiet truth: no cry would ever go unanswered while humanity walked among the stars. The fleet sailed through the silent stars, leaving the ashes of Zorvan 9 behind. Below, the survivors sat quietly, holding each other, still processing the impossible events they had just lived through. The sky outside the ship was black and endless, but it no longer felt empty. Hope had filled the void, carried by humans who had defied death itself to save them. Lieutenant Kara Voss moved among the survivors, offering comfort and small reassurances. Children clung to her, staring at her with wide eyes, unsure if she was real or some miracle born from the stars. "We're here now," Kara whispered again and again. "You're safe. You're going to live." Each word carried weight, a promise, a shield against the memories of destruction that still haunted them. Captain Darius Kane stood at the bridge, watching the stars streak by. His mind replayed the battles, the monstrous beasts, the collapsing buildings, the toxic storms, but also the faces of the survivors as they had first seen him. Wide-eyed, trembling, uncertain if anyone would answer their cries. Humanity had answered, and now the universe would remember. In the corridors, survivors began to talk to one another. They shared stories of the humans who had carried them through fire and ruin, who had risked their lives again and again to shield the helpless. Every story was tinged with awe and gratitude. The Zorvani could not find words strong enough to describe what they had witnessed. But they knew one thing: these humans were extraordinary. An elder approached Captain Kane. His hand shook as he held Kane's armored arm. "I thought the galaxy had forgotten us," he said, voice trembling. "I thought no one would ever come." Kane looked down at him, eyes steady, filled with quiet fire. "The galaxy may forget," he said, "but humanity never will. We will always answer the call. That is who we are. That is what we do." Tears filled the elder's eyes. Around him, the other survivors nodded, understanding now what the humans had shown them: courage without hesitation, strength without cruelty, and mercy without limits. Humanity had come when all others had turned away. Humanity had risen from a world that demanded nothing less than heroism, and had delivered more than anyone could imagine. The youngest children, who had clung to life by sheer instinct, began to smile for the first time in months. One small boy looked up at Kara and whispered, "Will you stay with us?" Kara knelt beside him, shaking her head gently. "I can't stay forever," she said softly. "But we will be with you in every story you tell, in every hope you carry, in every act of courage you share. Humanity is always here, even when you can't see us." In the observation deck, survivors gazed at the stars, the endless expanse that had once felt cold and uncaring. Now they saw a galaxy filled with possibility. Humanity had turned despair into hope. Humanity had taken a world that was lost and shown it the value of life again. Captain Kane addressed his crew quietly, words meant for themselves and the stars beyond. "We've done what no one else would. We've answered a cry that should have been ignored. We've shown the galaxy that when humanity rises, no voice goes unheard, no life is abandoned. Remember this. Carry it with you. It will guide every step we take." The survivors listened, wide-eyed and trembling, yet slowly, admiration and reverence replaced their fear. They realized that humans were not just soldiers or warriors, they were legends. They were monsters to their enemies, angels to the innocent, and a force of nature wherever life was at stake. A young girl, her small hands clutching the remnants of her family's belongings, looked out at the stars. "We will tell everyone," she whispered. "We will tell the galaxy what humans did for us." Her voice carried like a spark in the void, a story that would travel faster than light, spreading hope to worlds that had long given up. And somewhere in the infinite dark, the echoes of Zorvan Nine's cries no longer rang with despair. They became songs of survival, gratitude, and wonder. Humanity had answered when all others had failed. The legend of the Deathworlders would grow, carried across the stars, whispered from world to world, never forgotten. Captain Kane watched the fleet move onward, his heart heavy with fatigue but light with purpose. Humanity had come, humanity had risen, and humanity would continue to rise, answering cries wherever they echoed in the dark. Lieutenant Karavos smiled faintly, watching the young survivors begin to laugh softly. Their first laughter in months. It was fragile, hesitant, but it was real. And that laughter was humanity's victory. Not the battles, not the monsters, not the deadly storms. They were defined by the lives they saved, by the hope they carried, and by the promise they had kept. Somewhere across the galaxy, a child on another world would hear the story of the Deathworlders, and that child would believe that they were never truly alone. Humanity had spoken through its courage and mercy, and the echo would never die. The stars shone a little brighter that night. And in the hearts of those who had been rescued, and in the hearts of the humans who had saved them, one truth burned eternal. When all others abandon hope, humanity rises, and humanity would always rise.